Frequency 92.7 3 FM.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News on 3 FM and 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kazmi 107.1 FM and across the world at streetnews.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa to meet officials of South African High Commission over recent xenophobic attacks targeted at Ghanaians and other African nationals. Also on the program this afternoon, public hearing on the consideration of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, also known as the anti-LGBTQI bill, commences in Parliament. And much later on the program, hopes high and expectations heightened as the Executive Council of Ghana Football Association GFA officially unveils Portuguese trainer Queiroz as the new head coach of the Black Stars today. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is meeting with officials of the South African High Commission in Ghana over recent harassment and xenophobic attacks towards Ghanaians in South Africa. Also, our sources at the Foreign Affairs Ministry say that the meeting between South Africa's Foreign Affairs Minister and ambassadors of African nations did happen yesterday as advertised. We're learning that the South African minister assured his counterparts of security and protection for their nationals. Let's head to the Foreign Affairs Ministry now, where my colleague Martin Esiedudate is standing by with some details of the meeting for us. Martin, if you can tell us whether or not the meeting has started.
Good afternoon to you, Beatrice, and to our listeners. I can confirm that the meeting is yet to start, but a lot of efforts have already commenced where the Foreign Affairs Minister in Ghana, the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, has been in contact with his counterpart in South Africa. And I'm referring to Ronald Lamola, who is the South African Foreign Minister, regarding the disturbing videos. And you would also recall that today there were reports that some South Africans are demonstrating against fellow Africans who are in different parts of South Africa. So he says that the meeting is expected to address the key concerns, and more importantly, the fact that one of the viral videos had a Ghanaian or a set of Ghanaians who were being verbally abused by their South African counterparts. It is quite disturbing, especially on the back of South Africa needing the entirety of the continent to support them or lend them a hand during the apartheid era. Now that that is over and they have their independence, in the last decade there have been these recurrent xenophobic events, some getting very physical to the extent that some Africans have died as a result of just being in South Africa or seeking greener pastures over there. The biggest concern is how the government of South Africa is reacting to this. So the Foreign Affairs Minister hinted that he is aware that the South African government is meeting with other African ambassadors in South Africa to try and find a solution to this development. So when we do get further details regarding today's meeting with the South African ambassador to Ghana, we will update our listeners. But as it stands, that meeting is yet to commence.
And Martin, I do understand that some other diplomatic representatives are going to be participating in this meeting as well. Can you tell us which countries, for instance, we are sure will take part in this meeting?
It is at the moment not too clear, but what we are picking up is that it's likely to be other southern African countries like Zimbabwe, Lesotho, and then other countries that are bordering South Africa. that is the hint we are picking. We can't confirm that for now, but we do know that this meeting, which has been called by the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, is particularly because of what happened in South Africa. So we are yet to see who else will be attending this meeting. And when we do get that, we'll try and draw what the key parallels are as to why these other foreign ministers, ambassadors are also being invited to the meeting. And then when we're able to find all those linkages, we'll let our listeners know about it.
Indeed. And finally, obviously, we've heard the Foreign Affairs Minister say that in his conversation with his counterpart in South Africa, the assurance was that there was going to be investigation into this. Aside from that, do we know any other expected outcome?
The one other thing we can talk about as of now is that we know the minister has been in touch with Ghana's ambassador to South Africa, the Honorable Richard Kwashi, and Benjamin Kwashi, I should say, and immediately he was tasked to ensure that any Ghanaian that has come under any form of attack is given the necessary consular assistance and probably psychological assistance as well, and then also activate the protocol for anybody who feels that they are under any form of attack to either get assistance or come to the Ghana's embassy in South Africa so they can get some assistance. So there has been that constant communication between Ghana and Johannesburg, Pretoria, and then other places where we have consular services. But on top of my mind, I think that is more crucial, the safety of our citizens in South Africa for now. And we are sure that going forward, if anything does come up, would, update our viewers and listeners as well.
Indeed. Great. Thank you very much, Martin Asiododate, who is currently monitoring the yet to commence a Foreign Affairs Ministry meeting with South Africa and other nations on the continent. Now, the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament has begun consideration of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, also known as the anti-LGBTQI bill, today. The public hearing, which will continue on Friday, will provide avenue for the reintroduced legislation to be scrutinized for key input from stakeholders before Parliament resumes processes for its passage. It comes a few weeks after the minority accused the government of bowing to donor and international pressure to frustrate the bill's passage, arguing that the strong campaign made by the NDC in opposition has silently evaporated. Shaibu Mahama is chairman of Parliament Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. Let's listen to him before we cross over to our parliamentary affairs correspondent.
This bill was introduced some time back, but with a fraction of time, many other things would have happened. Many events would have changed stuff. And so for us, it's a blessing in disguise. So if there were some clauses that were missed out in considering at the last sitting of Parliament before the Parliament lapsed, we have the opportunity of incorporating, deleting, amending, or reshaping the nature of the bill. We take cognizance of the rights of individuals who may be affected by this, and we're making the provisions in such a way that no individual, no Ghanaian's rights are going to be infringed upon. We also take note of existing legislation that has already taken care of some of the clauses that we'll be looking at here. And so this is going to be comprehensive. It's back on the back burner again, and today we start with that.
And you have the chairman of Parliament's Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, Shaibu Mahama. Christian Yale is a man in Parliament. He joins us live on the line. Chris, what more can you tell us?
Exactly, Beatrice. And even today, the stakeholder consultation or engagement is happening at the Fiesta Royal Hotel, and it will continue tomorrow as well. What we know is that after the chairman spoke, the deputy ranking, Al-Hassan Suleiman Atampoli, indicated that when you look at the content of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, also known as the anti-LGBTQ bill, it is almost the same as the first bill that was passed by the past parliament, which is the 8th parliament. And so his recommendation to the committee and the stakeholders has been that, if anything at all, they are able and should be able to fast-track the passage of this bill in the current form and shape as it is that they are currently considering. Beatrice, as I speak with you, the committee is going to look at, or is beginning to look at, the clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, so that where there are, stakeholder input, or there would be, they would take them and then do the necessary amendment thereof before the final draft of the bill. But we also know that one of the proponents or the sponsors of the bill, Sam George, had also indicated that when you look at other countries like Senegal and other African countries that have already passed, similar legislations or laws, they have not faced any economic consequences, as it were. One of the arguments that have been made over the period has been that when Ghana passes this law, we are likely to face international, blackout of the sort.
Indeed.
The kind of donor support that would get wouldn't be received. And so that has been one of the arguments that government, especially from the minority side, the government is reluctant in passing this bill because of those repercussions. But some judge makes a case that when you look at other countries that have passed the same law, they have not faced any economic or other consequences that would warrant that we are likely to face the same. Beatrice, we can take a listen to Sam George speak and make this clear.
I'm sorry, I don't think we have that, but what else can you tell us as regards what we should be expecting? Okay, we do have that. Please hold on, and I'll come back to you for us to conclude our conversation.
Uganda has replicated our bill, gone ahead to pass it. Senegal has done the same, passed it, and even reviewed their bill to increase the sanctions. And let us be clear, it has not brought any economic sanctions on any of those countries. And so it is important that I believe that we have done this, but we will respect the processes. The processes for the passage of a private member's bill must be respected to the letter through every single phase. So even though we want expediency, I will urge that we do what the letter of the law says is the process. Let me reiterate the fact that as for the clauses, we have gone through them, we've masticated them, we will go through them expeditiously, and there is nothing new. I have seen a few suggestions that have come. We can look at the merits or demerits, but the body of the law, Mr. Chairman, remains the same. The calls from very respectable groups like the Catholic Bishops' Conference are very well placed because of how sensitive and important this is. From the office of the Chief Imam, very important calls have been made. We've been told by the Chief Imam spokesperson that the Chief Imam's pleasure is to see this bill passed before he is called to his maker. I believe that Parliament has a responsibility to grant the Chief Imam his wish and grant the Catholic bishops their wish by making sure we do what we have to do expeditiously and placing this before President Mahama. And then we can collectively demand that President Mahama signs the bill. I have all the assurances that he will do the necessary when we place the bill before him.
And I heard there, Sam George, one of the proponents of the anti-LGBTQI bill, of course, the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram as well. Christian Yale is still on the line with us. Chris, what more should we expect?
So we are expecting that all the stakeholders that have gathered here, including traditional leaders, we have SHRAJ, we have Ghana Aid Commission, we also have UN agencies that are here. Then we have lawyers, legal practitioners that are here as well. So all of these individuals from diverse backgrounds, as well as religious leaders, the clergy who are all represented here, would make the necessary input into the bill. And by tomorrow, as and when all of these deliberations would end, we will be sure that before Parliament returns from recess somewhere in May, a foolproof bill would have been presented to them. It will go through the first reading. In fact, when you listen to one of the proponents, John Intim-Fojo, he is of the case that this bill can be looked at under a certificate of urgency, which means that in a day, it can take the first reading, the second reading, and the third reading, and then it will pass. And so Ghanaians generally have this greater anticipation that in the end of the day, the right thing will be done by Parliament, by passing it, and the President should assent to it.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Christian Yali, our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent. The Public Accounts Committee has also expressed concern over the failure of the Get Fund administrator to appear before the committee to answer questions on abandoned projects funded by the Get Fund. This development took center stage on day 3 of the sittings in Kumasi, which focused on the education sector, with tertiary institutions, universities and colleges of education appearing before the committee over findings in the 2024 Auditor General's report. On the issue of abandoned projects, officials from Get Fund outlined steps being taken to resume work on some of the stalled projects. The committee chairperson, Ablakwa Asari, expressed dissatisfaction with the absence of the Get Fund administrator to directly respond to the concerns raised. Ibrahim Abubakar has the rest of the story.
Heads of second cycle schools as well as representatives from the colleges of education and vocational and technical institutions responded to audit queries bordering on financial management and administrative practices. The committee examined issues including irregular expenditure, poor record keeping, and weak internal controls across some institutions.
Wesley College, I'm looking at your statements of financial performance, and I noticed that your compensation did not change much, but then there was quite a huge increment in your total expenditure. Usually, they tell you the difference has to do with compensation, but this time I see goods and services moving from 3.5 million in 2023 to 9.4 million in 2024.
This has to do with a project we have with Senlos, a Canadian project, which we need to invest in goods and services for teaching and learning material. That has brought that change.
On the issue of abandoned projects, officials from Get Fund outlined steps being taken to resume work on some of the stalled projects.
We managed to receive data from consultants and from all the stakeholders that are working on the project, close to over 2,700 on them. That will give us a budget of almost about 9.9 billion. But the board is of the view they can't. So they have approved about 4.35 billion. And so far, by the end of January, we've submitted approval to GTEC projects about 118. That's about 1.8 billion for them to be completed across the country.
However, the committee chairperson, Ablakwa Asari, expressed dissatisfaction with the absence of the Get Fund administrator to directly respond to the concerns raised.
Several reports of Get Fund have appeared before us, and the administrator never seems to find time to come. What is the mandate of Get Fund? These are some of the most important things they should attend to, and so they should be here. Respectfully, this is the last time we would take Get Fund without the administrator. Ever since the 9th Parliament Public Accounts Committee started sitting, the administrator has never appeared before us. It is not a good sign.
The committee reiterated its commitment to ensuring transparency and accountability, warning that institutions found culpable will be required to rectify anomalies or face sanctions. Members also stressed the need to strict compliance with financial regulations to safeguard public resources. The Public Accounts Committee continues its zonal sitting in Kumasi as it works through various sectors cited in the 2024 Auditor General's report. Ibrahim Abubakar, TV3.
And let's bring you some more here because hopes are high and expectations are heightened as the Executive Council of the Ghana Football Association, GFA, officially unveils Portuguese trainer Carlos Queiroz as the new head coach of the senior national team, the Black Stars. This follows the announcement of his appointment weeks back after the removal of the last Black Stars coach, Ghanaian Okudzeto. The statement from the GFA said that the decision was made in collaboration with key football stakeholders and signals Ghana's intent to becoming a dominant force on the global stage this summer. The former Real Madrid, Manchester United, Portugal and Iran coach will lead Ghana's campaign at the 2026 FIFA World Cup in Canada, Mexico and the United States. Here's what a FIFA performance expert Faisal Chipsa says about his expected performance.
Okay, when is the right time, right? Because we've seen managers come in at a very, even more shorter notice than this, and they've done well. Let's go back to 2022 when Walid took over Morocco. It was just around this same time, and they did very well. So you would say that was a good appointment, right? We've also seen other situations where similar scenario, but then, it goes south. It's only the end that will justify the appointment here. But I think there's an opportunity here to salvage our World Cup campaign. It can be better, but it can also go worse if we don't put the right things in place. I think Carlos's appointment is just one of bigger issues that needs to be dealt with. So I'm glad that's solved, but let's not forget there are other important areas that really needs equal attention, really needs equal better decision for Carlos to succeed in this campaign. So if you look at the last maybe 10 years, the kind of teams he's coached, you would say teams with more attacking talent. So that means it would have to be a bit more defensive, in terms of organization and keeping the balance. So for me, that would make sense for a coach that chooses a plan that fits the players, the strength.
And you had the Faisal Chipsa. He is a FIFA performance expert. Let's speak to my colleague on the sports desk, Murtala Yakubu, who is, of course, monitoring events for us ahead of the unveiling. Murtala, big day for the national team. Just talk to us about this, the plans leading to the final unveiling, I believe, around 1 p.m. today.
Yes, Beatrice, I can hear you. Currently, I am at the Alisa Hotel where the unveiling will be done. We've had a few GFA officials already here to survey the area, especially Jamal Merabi, who came in very early. He's the brands and marketing manager of the FA, came to set up the place, to ensure that the place is properly organized. I can tell you that the media fraternity are here in their numbers, especially those from the sports domain. They are all here, rightly seated, waiting for the coach. This morning, the coach actually made a brief stop at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Recreation, where he was introduced to Sports Minister Kofi Adams, where they actually formally or officially introduced him to him. They had a chit-chat about what he expects to do with his time at the Black Stars and all that. But Kofi Adams actually left the proper questioning to the sports fraternity, which will be done here at the Alisa Hotel. There's some form of renewed optimism among the media guys here because they feel this is a new dawn and he would come in with a new vibe, and hopefully we will see the Black Stars thrive under him.
He'll come in with a new vibe, you say, but just remind us again really what he brings to the table.
Well, he brings a lot of experience, someone that is bold, seen it all, being at club level, national team. He's coached Portugal as recent as the 2010 World Cup. He was in charge of the Portuguese national team who were knocked out by Spain in the quarterfinals in South Africa. He's qualified Iran to 3 major World Cups. The last 3 World Cups that Iran have been to, he was the one that did. He's their longest serving manager, club level football. He's worked with one of, or arguably the best coach ever in the world, Sir Alex Ferguson. So he comes in with rich vein of experience. And in terms of tactics, he's a bit pragmatic, someone that relies heavily on defensive abilities, then he counter-attacks. So he comes in with dynamism in terms of how he plays, because we saw him with Portugal. He was playing a different brand of football as compared to what we saw against Iran. So, we are hopeful from what we've seen in his time in club football. Remember, he was the first manager he was the one that qualified South Africa to the 2002 World Cup. So, he knows the African terrain. Recently, he was with Egypt, played in the Africa Cup of Nations, got to the final as well. So, the experience is there, and that is what we are hoping it will translate into the Black Stars.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. And you had there Murtala Yakubu, he's my colleague with the Sports Desk. Residents and traditional leaders of Berekum East Municipal Assembly have today embarked on a massive demonstration to fight against illegal mining activities that have started in the area, especially at Amanomaso, a farming community. On the streets of Berekum, majority of the residents walked with placards with inscriptions including "Berekum is not ready to import drinking water. Galamsey poisons our soil with cyanide. Galamseyers are vampires. Destruction of our lands is the greatest injustice to the unborn generation," among others, to register their displeasure against Galamsey activities in the area. Let's hear the Berekum Hine who partook in this demonstration. And you had a chief in Berekum, the member of parliament for the area, also spoke to the press.
So being a crash up and a good form of mining, we're all out for it. But said you go fee bad yet, and a woman. A couple chimney moon, ground identity. The way in a Sweden, identity. Woman camera was there. Sasansa see in a say, not a copase. There be the beer, you confront and be a near figure from Fabet on the Berekum. Ye mudu do send the business status Albiani. Say, Passa, and so I abandon no say, you know, traffic rapid was on I have no Berekum. Ye mudu do send the business at all. What you are not in China? The more you are real, the better. Ye mudu do send the business asa. Na Papa can say, was so bad, but it's a 1 minute. I'm not to baby.
And you had the member of parliament for Bono East in the Bono region, Mr. Chairman, is speaking earlier to the press during the demonstration. Still in the mining sector, the chief executive officer of the Ghana Chamber of Mines has cautioned against what he describes as a hasty transfer of mining sites to local operators. His comments come after a directive by Ghana's mining regulator to international companies Newmont, AngloGold Ashanti and Chinese-owned Zijin until December 2026 to shift mining operations over to local contractors or face sanctions, and that's coming from Reuters. The three companies currently operate the mines with their own staff, remaining as the only one still doing so after many firms outsourced mining operations ahead of Ghana. Now, speaking to 3FM, Engineer Kenneth Ashikpe said, whilst local content and participation is good for the mining sector, the process should not be rushed to affect revenue efficiencies. Let's hear exactly what he told us earlier.
Well, I know for a fact that there's been some engagements that have been going on between the chamber and its members and the Minerals Commission. And again, you know, I mean, so these conversations are going on. The issue around contract mining is something that we have been dealing with, and you know, I did not know that we've gotten to the point where the hard line has been dropped. But we believe that we would continue our engagement with the Commission, because you know, some of these things require you know, the transitions that has to happen. There are various ways in which we have to do it, and you know, from the Chamber's position, we believe that the issues around contract mining it's a good thing, you know, to have, but you need to do it on you know, there has to be some business reasoning around the way you do it, and then we need to also do it in such a way that it is not disruptive it also does not result even in, inefficiencies within the mines, which might even impact government's revenue itself that is going to come from there. So it is something that we've been engaging the Commission on.
And he had the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Mines. And just news in the High Court in Accra has adjourned the revenue assurance trial involving the Office of the Special Prosecutor to May 26, 2026, following ongoing legal challenges to the OSP's prosecutorial powers. When the case was called today, Principal State Attorney Adelaide Kobiri Wood, representing the OSP, told the court that since the last adjourned date, there have been proceedings at both the General Jurisdiction Court 10 and the Supreme Court touching on the authority of the Office of the Special Prosecutor to prosecute. We'll bring you more later. And that's it for the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Log on to 3news.com. Coming up shortly is Business Daily with Grace Hamuajiman. Have a good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, traders rally behind Ghana Shippers Authority on Newport charge cap. We'll bring you that subsequently. Also, analysts challenge IMF's 53% debt to GDP forecast, projecting Ghana's debt to remain below 50% in 2026.
We don't think that the Ghana's debt will reach such a level because the government has shown certain level of prudence as far as their debt management and, for that matter, borrowing is concerned.
My name is Grace Hamuajiman. Details of this now. And President of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, Dr. Kofinsia Poku, has called for clear and transparent rules on access to credit in Ghana. Speaking at a sensitization workshop on borrowing and lending organized in collaboration with the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Nsiapoku said credit must be cost-effective and inclusive to truly support businesses. Clear guidelines, he argued, would help level the playing field and ensure more entrepreneurs can access affordable financing.
Microeconomic stability has a positive bearing on lending rates. Your presence therefore underscores the importance of collaboration between industry, regulators, and financial institutions in strengthening Ghana's credit environment. The Borrowers and Lenders Act 2020 represents a major step forward in promoting responsible lending, protecting borrowers' rights, and enhancing transparency and efficiency within our credit system. For businesses, especially small and medium enterprises, access to finance remains a critical pillar for growth, expansion, and sustainability. However, Access must be supported by clear rules, mutual accountability, and a shared understanding of rights and obligations.
That was President of AGI, Dr. Kofi Nsiah-Poku. Away from that, the Traders Advocacy Group Ghana, TAG, has declared its firm and uncompromising support for the Ghana Shippers Authority's latest move to reform ports costs. The GSA recently issued directives to streamline and cap container administrative charges, a move TAG describes as a decisive intervention against the arbitrary and excessive charges imposed by shipping lines. Following extensive stakeholder consultations, a new administrative charge has been set at 550 cedis. Central to this reform is a requirement that all pricing be conducted in cedis. Let's listen to General Secretary of TAG, Nana Poku.
All we seek for is parity in this shipping industry. Over the years, they've come up with charges that were not being regulated by Ghana Shippers Authority. But the last stakeholders meeting we had, Shippers Authority have gone through all the West Africa ports. Ghana was paying too high. So we compared to the other ports, and then we decided to land on 550 Ghana cedi for administrative charges. And at the end of the day, they go around, pay some people in Ghana here, trying to kick against a decision stakeholders have come up with. At first, they were even charging dollars. Now, the stakeholders meeting raised the issue on payment in dollars and then reverted it back to cedis. And this has become a problem for them. We are not budging now, and we are not ready to kowtow to what they direct. If they are not ready to help us build the economy of Ghana, they should tell us. Then you can as well move your operations elsewhere.
That was General Secretary of the Traders Advocacy Group, TAG. Now, a finance and tax analyst, Nelson Kujo-Kwagbeji, is disputing the IMF's latest debt projections for Ghana, arguing that the country is on track to maintain a debt-to-GDP ratio below 50% by the end of 2026. His projection stands in sharp contrast to the IMF's recent forecast of 53%, which Kwagbeji claims lacks a sound basis beyond generic restructuring scenarios. Let's listen to him.
The analyst pointed to the significant fiscal turnaround achieved over the last year as evidence of the government's prudent debt management.
We ended the year with 726.7 billion Ghana cedis, representing about 61.8% of debt to GDP. At the end of December 2025, our total debt stock was around 641 billion Ghana cedis, representing 45.3% of GDP. In fact, that same year, the IMF also projected that by the end of the year, Ghana's debt to GDP ratio will be around 60%, but we ended up doing about 45.3%. No basis was actually put out there by the IMF for the 53.0% that they indicated.
Kwagbeji noted that the government's 2026 financing strategy reflects a high degree of fiscal discipline. Despite a slight rise in domestic borrowing to support local infrastructure, the government has been very cautious in its market engagements.
As at the end of the first quarter, the government raised about 104 billion Ghana cedis in the treasury bill market. Again, government also raised about 2.7 billion Ghana cedis in the 7-year note that they issued recently. And so, for where we sit, we don't think that the Ghana's debt will reach such a level because the government has shown certain level of prudence as far as their debt management and, for that matter, borrowing is concerned. And so we are even projecting that by the end of the year, Ghana's debt may remain below 50% in terms of debt to GDP ratio.
While the IMF remains cautious, Nelson Kwagbeji believes that if current fiscal consolidation and cedi stability hold, Ghana will continue to defy international skepticism, cementing its path toward long-term debt sustainability.
That was a 3 News Desk report. Then that will be all by way of Business Daily on 3FM My name is Grace Hamajiman. Log on to 3news.com and get some more stories. Good afternoon.